of different ways. And that led me to realize that there are three big things that are going on in the world that are dominant. And then COVID came along. Those three forces are, first, the long-term debt and monetary cycle, which I mean the creating a lot of debt, monetizing it, and the implications of that, which reverberate through the system in terms of all the markets and everything. The second is this conflict, this polarization, this wealth gap, and how we're at each other's throats. And I looked at the wealth gap, and I looked at a lot of measures of conflict going back in time, and I found that they were in the 1930 to 45 period. The printing of money, as I described, and debt monetization was also in the 1930 to 45 period. And the third big influence is the rise of China, so the rise of a great power, challenging an existing great power, the United States. And that has enormous implications. As an investor, I think, what are the relative appeals of the markets, but it has a lot of implications. It's not just a trade war. So the markets and everything were reverberating the trade war, the technology war, the geopolitical war in Taiwan and the South China Seas, and then also the capital war. We're seeing that emerge. So those three factors required me to then go back in history. And I wanted to study the rises and declines of reserve currency empires. So I needed to go back far enough that I would have a few. So I had to go back 500 years so I could see the rise and decline of the Dutch Empire and its reserve currency, the rise and decline of the British Empire and its reserve currency, the rise and beginning of decline for the United States and its reserve currency, and China. And so those are the forces, and that's what I did, which you're referring to. And that, by the way, that's available for anybody to read on LinkedIn.
So to recap, it's the high levels of debt, extremely low interest rates, the large wealth gaps and political divisions, and the rising world power, which was China versus this kind of overextended power being the US. And I just heard you say, Ray, in that thesis there, that you said this was the most analogous to the 1930, 1945 time period. Of course, if we go back in history, we understand what happened. And that sounds really concerning.
Well, it is really concerning. And it's even more concerning when I went back to find the 500 years and the times that repeated over and over again.